We switch gears and talk football now. We bring in the great Howard Balzer with PHNX, our Cardinals insider. Howard, big news with DeAndre Hopkins. Now, he's not officially cut just yet. He hasn't been released. Just give us the details on that.
That's one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, because it was announced so many places. He's been released because the Cardinals announced we've released him. But because this is a holiday weekend, there was no personnel notice in the NFL on Friday or even tomorrow on Monday. And so anything that would happen with him cannot officially happen until Tuesday. So what this did was, in all actuality, it created some time that if there's a team that wants to step up and says, oh, they're cutting him now, we want to make sure we get him, there could still potentially be a trade. I'm not predicting there will be, but it still is possible. Let's remember, the Cardinals did that with Rodney Hudson and the Raiders a couple of years ago. When the Raiders announced they were releasing Rodney Hudson, they didn't. The Cardinals got him in a trade. So, again, that's still a possibility with this. But he won't be off the roster until at least Tuesday.
Yeah, so if there's a team out there that says, look, we don't want to compete with other teams in free agency, let's contact the Cardinals now, give them a fifth-round pick, and see if we can negotiate something with Hopkins at long-term deal.
Right, exactly. But here's the kind of the caveat to that. Is that I think one of the reasons the Cardinals haven't been able to get an offer is because of Hopkins' salary, which is almost $19.5 million this year. And all these teams out there, oh, the Bills are the favorite now, right? The Chiefs. Well, those teams hardly have any cap space. And so any team, let's remember, if you trade for a guy, you're trading for his contract. So you would have to have that salary cap space available. So realistically, to make a deal happen for one of those teams, they'd have to renegotiate and restructure Hopkins' contract to lower the cap number. And what's complicating it? He doesn't have an agent right now. And so there's a lot of factors in this that make it different than usual in the NFL.
So who do you think is going to end up getting DeAndre Hopkins? Because the guy can still play.
He can still play, and certainly the money was a factor in him in a trade not happening, and the compensation in a draft pick, like you said. There's also the fact he'll be 31 on June 6th. He's only played 19 games the last 2 seasons, and let's remember too, he's a guy that doesn't like to practice. So it'll be very interesting to see what team, assuming if he does become a free agent, what team signs him that's really interested, and then what that contract will look like and how much he can actually produce for that team.
And it's going to be interesting to see what this Cardinals wide receiver room looks like, because now you got Hollywood Brown and Greg Dortch. What do you think about the Cardinals wide receivers as we move forward?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll say one thing, Richard. We're both not very tall guys.
Right.
Greg Dortch, Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, they're about our height.
Yeah.
In fact, Rondale Moore is actually shorter than us. And so they do have some big guys that they're hoping for. The rookie draft pick, Michael Wilson. There's some other free agents that they've signed. But the wide receiver room right now does have some ability, but it's certainly not going to scare any teams in terms of the height and be really good targets that a defense has to worry about. So that's a huge question going into this season.
Yeah, and just for the record, they're our height, but they're a lot faster than we are.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. We'll hopefully get to see Budda Baker. He says he's going to be here for the mandatory camp. What do you think about his future with the Arizona Cardinals?
I would hope that the Cardinals find a way to take care of him. He has 2 years left on his contract. There's no guaranteed money in it. To me, Budda Baker is the epitome of a guy that you want to keep around. And in some ways, he's the antithesis of DeAndre Hopkins, a defensive player who puts his body on the line every game, every week in every game, every day in practice. We saw the injuries that he played with last year. And the other thing is, if you extend his contract and guarantee some of that, you're sending a message to all these young guys they're bringing in. Hey, you do the job. You play with the passion of Budda Baker. We will take care of you in time if you play at that level. So certainly you're hopeful that he will be back, because once again, to me, he's the type of guy you want to have in your locker room. And they've shed a lot of guys that have experience and leadership, and there's not too many left, and there's certainly no other Budda Bakers on this team.
Right now, the over/under is 4.5 wins this season for the Arizona Cardinals. How do you see this year playing out? I know it's early. We still got camps. We haven't even started training camp, but what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think what we will see is a team that will play hard and compete. That's obviously what every team should do, because that's what you're getting paid to do. And I do remember, Richard, several years ago when Todd Bowles was the coach of the Jets, they looked like a horribly talented team, or not talented team, on paper. And they ended up winning 5 games, which was a surprise to a lot of people. I don't know if the Cardinals will be good enough to do that. The schedule's tough. The division is pretty good, obviously. So, like I said, I don't think we can expect too much from this team, but what you would like to see, especially with they're going to be playing a lot of young guys, you would think, is to see improvement throughout the season. And the biggest thing is, hey, try to stay healthy. I mean, that to me, that's been the biggest issue with this team the last year and a half of those 2 seasons, is they had so many injuries that it just affected what the product on the field was. And hey, maybe win a few games at home. Wouldn't that be nice to see?
Yeah, that would be great. See, that's why we have him on our show. That's why he's our Cardinals insider. Howard Balzer, great insight. Thank you so much, buddy.
Appreciate it, Richard.